Today, the story I'm about to tell you is not just the story of a boxer. It is the story of a man who rose far beyond the ring, a revolutionary, a symbol, a voice for millions around the world. That man is the legendary Muhammad Ali. But what made Muhammad Ali truly special? What lifted him from being just another athlete to becoming one of the most unforgettable figures in human history? Was it his power, his speed, his mastery inside the ring? Was it simply the way he knocked his opponents to the ground? No. What made him unique was not only the strength of his fists, but the strength of his heart, his beliefs, and his unshakable courage. Born in 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky, as Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., who could have imagined that this young boy, whose bike was once stolen, would one day turn his anger into a fire that would shape the history of boxing? Who could have believed that this boy would grow into the man who declared, "I am the greatest," and made the whole world believe it too? Yet Ali's journey was not only about victories and championships. His path was filled with sacrifices, battles with the system, and risks he willingly took for his faith and convictions. Because Muhammad Ali never fought only inside the ring. He also fought in politics, in society, in the streets, and in the hearts of people. Even those who disliked him had no choice but to respect him. Because Ali was fearless, because Ali never held back his words, because Ali fought not only against opponents, but also against injustice, against racism, and against oppression. Think for a moment. The 1960s. America was burning with the struggle for civil rights, a time when racism poisoned everyday life. And in the middle of this turmoil, Muhammad Ali wasn't just throwing punches in the ring. He was throwing verbal punches at the system. He declared himself the greatest, not only as an athlete, but as a black man, as a Muslim, as a fighter for freedom. For that era, this was unimaginably bold, because mixing sports with politics and social issues could destroy your career overnight. But Ali didn't care, because for him, true victory wasn't just collecting championship belts. True victory was inspiring millions, giving people the courage to stand tall. And that is why Muhammad Ali was more than just an athlete, he was a hero. He was willing to lose everything, even his titles, but he would never abandon his beliefs. That's what made him the people's champion. When we look back today, the story of Muhammad Ali shows us something powerful. Strength does not only live in muscles. Real strength is the ability to stand up for your values, even when the world is against you. You may knock out opponents in the ring, but the greatest fight is standing firm against injustice, against oppression, and for human dignity. So let me ask you this. If Muhammad Ali were alive today, what would he be like? Would he be the loudest voice on social media, tweeting for justice and streaming live to millions? Would he step into the UFC octagon, challenging today's champions and reshaping the future of combat sports? Or maybe, just as he did in the past, he would once again stand tall against unfairness, no matter the cost. In this video, we will take a journey through Muhammad Ali's legendary path, his philosophy of life, his struggles, and the lessons he left behind for us all. Get ready, because this isn't just the story of a boxer. This is the story of courage, faith, and the unshakable dignity of humankind. In 1960, a young and fearless Cassius Clay arrived on the global stage at the Rome Olympics. Only 18 years old, he dazzled the world with his lightning-fast footwork and precise punches, capturing the gold medal in the light heavyweight division. When he returned to the United States, he was celebrated as a national hero. But even then, people noticed something different about him. He didn't just win fights, he performed. He had charisma, he had rhythm, and most of all, he had a voice that he wasn't afraid to use. Ali would often predict the exact round he would knock out his opponents. He delivered these predictions in rhymes, turning press conferences into poetry slams. The media had never seen anything like it. A brash young man declaring, "I am the greatest," before he had even held a world title. It shocked many, but it also drew millions of eyes toward him. That confidence turned into reality in 1964. At just 22 years old, he faced the feared Sonny Liston, a champion who seemed invincible. The odds were stacked against him. Few believed the young Clay could stand a chance against such a dominant fighter. But inside the ring, Clay moved like no heavyweight before him. He was light on his feet, slipping punches with grace and striking with precision. After 6 rounds, Liston failed to answer the bell. Against all expectations, Cassius Clay had become the heavyweight champion of the world. It was after this fight that the world would see a transformation. Cassius Clay announced that he had embraced Islam and would no longer be known by what he called his slave name. From that moment on, he was Muhammad Ali. This decision sent shockwaves across America. The 1960s were a turbulent time. Civil rights protests filled the streets, and segregation was still deeply rooted in American society. For a young, black, outspoken Muslim to claim the heavyweight crown was seen as defiance itself. Many in the press refused to acknowledge his new name, continuing to call him Cassius Clay as a form of resistance. But Ali never wavered. He said, "I don't have to be what you want me to be. I'm free to be who I want." And then came one of the most defining choices of his life. The United States entered the Vietnam War. Young men across the country were drafted to fight, and Ali received his induction notice. But instead of complying, he stood firm and declared, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong. No Viet Cong ever called me the N-word." It was a bold, radical stance. He refused to go to war, citing his religious beliefs and his conscience. For this decision, Ali was stripped of his heavyweight title, his boxing license was revoked, and he faced the threat of prison. At just 25 years old, when most athletes are in their prime, Ali was banned from the sport he loved. For more than 3 years, he was kept out of the ring. But this sacrifice elevated him from athlete to symbol. To millions of young people, Ali became a voice of courage, a man willing to risk everything for his principles. He showed that the fight for justice could be as powerful as any fight inside the ropes. Around the world, his name became synonymous with resistance, dignity, and conviction. When Ali finally returned to boxing in 1970, the sport and the world was eager to see if the legend still had his magic. Soon, the era of unforgettable rivalries began. His trilogy with Joe Frazier became the stuff of myth. Their first fight in 1971, billed as the fight of the century, was more than a sporting event, it was a cultural clash. Both men pushed each other to the absolute limit, and Frazier handed Ali his first professional defeat. But Ali didn't break. He came back stronger. Their third encounter, the Thrilla in Manila in 1975, was perhaps the most brutal heavyweight fight in history. The heat was suffocating, the pace relentless. Round after round, both men absorbed unimaginable punishment. By the 14th round, Joe Frazier's corner stopped the fight. Ali, utterly exhausted, said afterward, "It was the closest thing to dying that I've ever felt." That night, he proved not only his skill, but the depth of his willpower. But perhaps the most iconic moment of Ali's career came a year earlier in Zaire, in what was called the Rumble in the Jungle. Facing George Foreman, a young and devastating puncher who had demolished both Frazier and Norton, Ali was once again the underdog. Foreman was expected to crush him. Yet in front of 60,000 roaring fans chanting, "Ali, Bomai," which meant Ali, kill him, he unveiled one of the most brilliant strategies in boxing history. Ali leaned against the ropes, absorbing Foreman's thunderous punches, letting his opponent tire himself out. This was the legendary rope-a-dope strategy. And in the 8th round, Ali struck with speed and precision, knocking out Foreman and reclaiming the heavyweight crown. That victory was not just about boxing, it was about spirit, intelligence, and the belief that even when the odds are against you, there is always a way to rise. Beyond the ring, Ali's influence only grew. He was witty, poetic, and deeply human. In interviews, he used humor and sharp comebacks to disarm critics. He was unapologetically proud of who he was, giving hope to those who felt voiceless. His very presence challenged stereotypes and demanded respect. He wasn't just fighting opponents, he was fighting an entire system of prejudice. But time is undefeated. As his career wound down, Ali began to show signs of physical decline. Years of punishment in the ring took their toll. Eventually, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's syndrome, yet even as his body weakened, his spirit never did. He transformed once more, from champion athlete to global humanitarian. He used his fame to advocate for peace, to help those in need, and to inspire generations. Muhammad Ali's journey through triumph and adversity shows us something profound. Greatness is not measured by titles or trophies, but by the courage to stand up for what is right, even when it costs everything. He once said, "He who is not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing in life." Ali lived by those words, both in the ring and far beyond it. In the final years of his life, Muhammad Ali was no longer fighting inside the ring. He was fighting within the hearts of humanity. Parkinson's disease had weakened his body. The same hands that once struck with lightning speed now trembled, and his once thunderous voice had grown faint. But this was where his true strength was revealed. His fists no longer defined him. His resilience, his spirit, and his unshakable will did. And the world came to see that his greatest victories were not against opponents, but against life's toughest challenges. Ali was never just a boxer. He was a voice for justice, a defender of peace, a symbol for the voiceless. When he refused to fight in the Vietnam War, the world witnessed his courage. "I have no quarrel with them," he said, sending a message of peace across the globe. He paid a heavy price, stripped of his titles, banned from boxing for years. But history proved him right. Time passed, the world changed, and Ali's words echoed louder than ever. "I am the greatest." Not just in the ring, but in the way he stood for truth. Even in his final years, when his body was frail, people saw in him the same young, fearless man who refused to bow down. Around the world, his name inspired strength in the fight for racial equality, in the search for justice, and in the pursuit of dreams. When Muhammad Ali passed away in 2016, the world did not just lose a boxing legend, it lost a hero. Yet in truth, he never really left, because legends never die. Their bodies may rest, but their ideas, their struggles, and their legacy live on forever. Ali became the eternal symbol of standing tall, fighting for what you believe in, and never backing down. Even today, when a young fighter steps into the ring, when a student dares to chase their dreams, when someone raises their voice against injustice, Ali's spirit is there. His punches no longer fly, but his message still strikes with power. And perhaps that is why Muhammad Ali was never only an athlete, but a force that transcended time. His victories inside the ring may fade in memory, but the legacy he left in the hearts of humanity will never be forgotten. And now, if this story inspired you, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us, whose story should we bring to life next? Which legend, which icon, which unforgettable figure deserves to be remembered here? Because some people don't just live in their time, they live forever. And Muhammad Ali will forever remain one of them.